Welcome to the focused video that will cover the edits of solid swallows and solid meal swallows. These provocative tests give a greater challenge to the esophagus, which may bring on symptoms, and give additional supportive information to the interpreting physician. Solid swallows have Chicago marks similar to the liquid swallows. The intrabolus pressure, or IBP mark, does not show by default for this measurement type, but it can be enabled through the Properties page if you would like. Click on the Properties page icon, expand the Analysis section, and then above where Chicago 4 analysis was selected. These are the default measurement types with the IBP mark, but all swallow types can be selected. Once you've made your selection, it has been auto-saved, and you just simply X out of the Properties page. There is no normal value for intrabolus pressure in solid or solid meal measurements, but you can view the value if the mark has been enabled. The placement of the marks is the same as for liquid swallows. What differs is that a double swallow within 4 seconds is considered a single effort when it comes to solid swallows. There is also a difference in the normal value for the DCI. A DCI greater than 1,000 is considered normal. There's also an appropriate normal value in the study metrics. With a solid meal, it was nearly impossible to make measurements during the uncontrolled consumption of the meal. So in this case, the meal start was marked, the meal end was marked, and any reported symptoms were annotated. Underneath the meal start annotation, there is also a solid meal annotation. With this annotation, any measurement made to the right will be labeled as a solid meal measurement. The meal of 200 grams is to be consumed within 8 minutes. If they were unable to consume within 8 minutes, an annotation can be added either at the end of the meal as a comment or during analysis as an added annotation. The Notes section of the study metrics can be used to document whether or not the entire 200-gram meal was consumed in the allotted 8 minutes, how many pharyngeal contractions it took to complete the meal. In other words, counting the pharyngeal spikes from the meal start to the meal stop. Generally, this is between 25 and 30 swallows, and whether any symptoms were noted during the meal consumption period. In this case, there were 29 pharyngeal swallows to complete the 200-gram meal. Some criteria for different metrics require that 2 or more of the pharyngeal swallows meet that metric criteria. Other criteria require that 20% of the swallows meet that criteria. With 29 pharyngeal contractions, or 29 pharyngeal swallows to complete this meal. We'll round it to 30, and taking 20% of 30 would be 6 swallows. You may choose to create a measurement for each of the 29 pharyngeal swallows, or you can create at least 6 and measure the swallows in a solid meal. Zoom in to the first swallow. To the right of the meal start, and solid meal annotations add a measurement and span across the entire initial contraction. We will overlap subsequent swallows, and that is unavoidable. Then create a second measurement. It can overlap the initial measurement. You can continue with this method until all pharyngeal swallows have been measured, or if you choose, you may select 20% of the pharyngeal swallows and single them out for measurement. Notice that even with a healthy volunteer, some of the swallows are failed. That's okay. It is not expected that every swallow will be normal in peristaltic. It may be easier to edit the Chicago marks in each measurement as each is created. The interpretation of single, solid swallows and solid meal swallows is different than for any other part of the Chicago study. For additional details, we refer you to the Chicago 4 Technical Review article that goes over the protocol. This concludes the focused video on solid swallows and solid meal swallows.